Thank you very much, council. We'll move on to item number 2, approve the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda as circulated? I believe Councillor Daniel Allen, you're first. You have the floor.
Yes, I would like to add, YMCA / Mariner Center expansion to the agenda, please.
All right, we'll add that to item 6.7 under new business. Mariner Center / YMCA. Is that all you have, Councillor Allen? Thank you. We'll move on to Councillor Patty Durkee. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 5.5 Yarmouth Splash Park land request. I would like to add land and financial request, please.
Okay. Land and financial request. Hopefully I can read my writing, Councillor, afterwards. Is that it, Councillor Durkee? Is there any more additions or deletions to the agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Daniel Allen. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. A motion on the floor to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 3, is there any declarations of conflict of interest in any agenda item on there? If there's any, and you notice it afterwards, please notify the chair and it will be recorded that you're declaring a conflict of interest. Item number 4, approval of the minutes. You have in front of you or in your package or on your computer the minutes from December 14th, 16th, 22nd, February 13th, twice. What is the wishes of council? Councillor Lauren Cushing.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of December 14th, 2020 regular meeting, December 16th, 2020 regular council meeting, December 22nd, 2020 special council meeting, January 13th, meeting of the whole meeting, January 13th, 2021 council meeting.
Motion on the floor by Councillor Lauren Cushing. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by the Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. Motion on the floor to approve those minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you, council. One thing I wish to remind all the councilors that when you're speaking in the microphone, people on the line sometimes have a hard time to hear, so try to direct the microphone so it's more in your face, please. Some of the complaints that I've heard over the past couple meetings we had is sometimes people are having trouble hearing what the councilors are saying. So please keep that in mind. Item number 5, business arising. The second reading of the rezoning of second reading of the rezoning of 9539 PID number 901840003 and 9547 portion PID number 901840011 Highway 3 Pleasant Lake. You all have the recommendation in your package. What is the wishes of council? Councillor Daniel Allen.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the rezoning of property number 9539 PID 901840003 and portion of property 9547 PID number 901840011 from rural commercial to rural development.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councillor Daniel Allen.
I just want to make a comment. I see that the future proprietors, I think I would call them, are in it. I think this is a great addition to our municipality. It's another economic boost for us, going to provide some jobs, and I'm really happy to see this coming.
Thank you very much. Is there any other comments? Questions, concerns? If not, I'd entertain a question on the motion on the floor. Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much, council. Item number 5.2, recommendations from the January Committee of the Whole. 5.2.1, proposed bylaw schedule. In your meeting package, we all have a proposed schedule in regards to the number or where we're going to be placed on what bylaws we're going to be working on first. What is the wishes of the council? Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Yes, I'll move that the municipality of Yarmouth accept the bylaw schedule as circulated.
Motion on the floor, do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushing. Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Item 5.2.2, proposed policy ranking. You all have in your package, just like the last item we had, the policy ranking on where we're going to be looking at for policies that we're going to be asking staff and council to work on. What is the wishes of council? Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Yes, I'll move that we accept the proposed policy ranking as circulated.
Motion on the floor to approve the policy ranking as circulated, seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Question?
Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Item 5.2.3. Letter from Bill Cox regarding the YMCA. You all have that letter and you all have the recommendation. What is the wishes of council? Councillor Trevor Cunningham. Sorry, Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. I knew I was going to get that wrong sooner or later.
Right, yes, Mr. Cox wrote the municipality of Yarmouth indicating concern about the YMCA and our lack of a current facility. And in any event, we did discuss this issue at committee of the whole, and the recommendation coming forward, and I'll make a motion, is that we have staff write a letter in response to Mr. Cox to clarify the process that all three municipal units are following in the mandate of its committee and subcommittees regarding the pool situation.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. Is there any discussion on that motion? I do have one comment about that. We did discuss this in our committee of the whole, and it was recommended that we move this forward to the regular council meeting for approval. We just recently passed a motion to go to change or to rate our policies and stuff like that. At the current time, council does not have a policy on what type of information or emails or requests gets on the council table. I personally am a little troubled on the way that this email is stated. It's basically a third person email. It was originally sent, as we can see, to a news organization, and it was asked of one of my fellow councilors to be added this to have this added to the floor. Our policy ranking, we're going to be working on what rank or how the correspondence is to come to council table. However, with that said, it is on council's table, and however council decides to proceed forward with this recommendation on that council's disposal and discretion to do as you wish. Deputy Warden?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think the rationale for it being on the agenda tonight was essentially to not only to write Mr. Cox back, to address some concerns, to give additional information, but you'll see there was a second motion forwarded for our action tonight, and it was to have staff work to communicate the processes around the Mariner Center expansion to the general public. So this one was sort of the springboard to do that work, essentially. So that's the rationale as to why this one came to the council table, I'm assuming, as opposed to some others. It was one of the first ones, and there was avoiding communication. We recognize that as a council, and that's why I speak affirmatively. I vote, I'm gonna vote for the motion, obviously, to have the letters in.
Very well stated, Counselor, or sorry, I did that twice, my apologies, Deputy Warden. It's not that I'm opposed to writing Mr. Cox, it's just about the policy and stuff that we don't have. As we all know, I'm very policy oriented in the way that I operate, so whatever the wishes of council, I will be also voting in favor of the motion on the floor. So is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried unanimously. Thank you, council. Item 5.3, recommendations from PAC. 5.3 from 1, request for proposal of the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw. You all have that in front of you?
We just missed the second part of the recommendation regarding Mr. Cox's correspondence.
My apologies, council. Okay, council, my apologies. I missed the second recommendation. For some reason, I don't have it. It didn't come up on my screen. There's two recommendations in regards to Mr. Cox's letter. The second recommendation was to recommend to council and staff to work on to communicate the process around the Mariner Center expansion to the general public. So what is the what is the wishes of council as per that second recommendation? Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Right, so I'll move the municipality district of Yarmouth, have staff work on communications around processes around the Mariner Center expansion to the general public, to clarify the direction.
Motion on the floor, do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councillor Patty Durkee.
Hope this is the time, but we've been getting a lot of letters. There's a lot of unknowns right now. I think it's really important that we communicate very well, that we are still involved in the expansion process and the bridge process. And I think that needs to come out better in the public so they understand that it's not, that we are still speaking about what we're going to do, and that there is a meeting coming up next week. And we're looking forward to some recommendations coming out of that meeting. And we'll be able to move forward.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there any more discussion on that motion? Before I take the question, Councillor Allen, I have to say that in the past 2 days, I think I've answered at least 25 emails that you've all been CC'd on. So yes, absolutely, this is a great recommendation by the committee of the whole for the deputy warden. So I'd like to state that. So if there's no more comments, Councillor Daniel Allen, call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you very much, Council. Item number 5.3, recommendations from PAC. Item 5.3.1, request for proposals of the municipal plan strategy and land use bylaw review. Before you have the recommendations, what is the wishes of council? Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Right, at our last planning advisory committee meeting, we vetted the draft requests for proposals of the council, and we're doing that now. So I'd make the motion that the municipality of the District of Yarmouth approve the circulated request for proposals of the NPS and LUB review. It's circulated.
Motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Warren Cushing. Is there any discussion on that motion? Actually, I have a quick comment. It's hard to believe, I was involved in the first process when I was the chair of the Planning Advisory Committee almost 10 years ago. And it's hard to believe how the time has flown, and we're also mandated by the province that we review these municipal planning strategies and land use. We review these municipal planning strategies and land use bylaws every 10 years. So it's hard to believe that it's been 10 years already. So is there any more discussion on that motion? Nancy, do you have anything? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Deputy Warden.
My apologies, just something that I'd like to share with everybody that was somewhere at the meeting, obviously, but not everybody's on the committee, but it was mentioned that it's important to have a very, very good land use bylaw and municipal planning strategy, because oftentimes investors in the community, it's not about having no rules, it's about having clarity around what can and can't be done, and that's very, very important. So oftentimes investors, landowners, people that are building houses, coming to the community, want clarity around what can and can't be done. So it'll be a positive move to do this work, and it will make the investment climate, I think, overall in this town, which is better, and clarify a number of issues that need to be updated.
Absolutely, Deputy Warden. My apologies, I must be getting a little rusty up here because it's been a while since we've been sitting in the council
I
chambers.
was the last one.
But I do see the schedule here, the RFP release provided council passes is today's February the 1st. And the start of work, all the process, and we find a successful applicant, the start of the work will begin on, the proposed date is March 29th. So, is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you, council. Item 5.4, recommendations from the Heritage Advisory Committee. Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Heritage Committee recently met and we discussed a number of concerns. We do have a lot of heritage properties in and around Yarmouth County, and it appears that we do not offer any incentives for people owning those. So it was recommended by the Heritage Committee that council direct staff to research what incentives other municipalities have for heritage property owners. And the reason being is because it doesn't seem to be anything positive about owning a heritage property. Insurance rates, first of all, are higher because the certain things have to be replaced with heritage level materials, so it costs more. Insurance costs more. So we were just wondering, what is it that we could do to encourage people to keep heritage properties and keep them in good condition, and also to buy them, because it appears that once heritage property is put on the market, that there's restrictions that people have when they want to do some work to it. So, and we don't want to lose these heritage properties. So I'm going to make the motion to, if we could, to direct staff to research what incentives other municipalities have for heritage properties and see if we could come up with something ourselves.
Motion on the floor, and seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Is there any discussion on that motion? I will say, Councillor Durkee, you're absolutely right. Heritage properties come with their own set of troubles and circumstances and regulations and insurance burdens and stuff like that. And I certainly would like to see what other municipalities do in that regard to try to keep some of our heritage properties around, so, absolutely. Is there any more discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Item 5.5, the Yarmouth Splash Park land.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, we have a 5.4, there was another recommendation from the Heritage Committee.
So there is.
Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. I'm trying to do two different things at once, and I'm not doing one very well right now. Go ahead, Councilor Durkee.
Thank you. The other recommendation from the Heritage Committee is that staff work with the Heritage Advisory Committee to create an educational brochure about the advantages of having a designated heritage property. As right now, it seems like it's mostly negative. So one of the purposes would be to give to real estate agents so that they can educate people on the points or things that the people have to look out for when they buy heritage property, because we feel that that's not being done in any way, that people who are buying them aren't understanding that there are regulations that go along with home ownership. So if we had a brochure, one part would be to tell people how to have their heritage property designated. Two, if we find we can offer an incentive, then we can include that as well, just so that people understand the advantages, because there's nothing out there that people have access to at this point.
Okay, so your original motion, Councilor, was,
To request that staff work with the Heritage Advisory Committee to create an additional, an educational brochure about the advantages of having a designated heritage property.
okay, so there's a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councilor Sherry Hurlbert. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Council. And I'd also like to apologize to anyone on Facebook. I turned off my mic inadvertently. Item 5.5, Yarmouth Splash Park land request and financial request. What is the wishes of Councilor? Councilor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had an excellent presentation by the Splash Park Committee. This is the second time that they have come forward to council. At this point, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Splash Park Committee's request to locate the park at the Mariners Center and provide for financial support of $38,777.77 and take on the operating costs of $20,000, which would be added to the Mariner Center operating.
So there's a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder?
One second.
Seconded by Councilor Lauren Cushing. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councilor Daniel Allen.
Is it possible for me to make a motion to amend the first motion?
Yes, there is.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to amend the first motion to also furthermore go to that the money that we are giving be conditional on all other financial commitments being met that the Splash Park has presented to us, including provincial and fundraising and our other two partners. I also feel that since we are going to be putting this, or it looks like we're going to be putting this at the Mariner Center, and we are in the middle of trying to do a major retrofit out there, I feel that maybe the site selection at the center should probably flow from the Splash Park, through the board, and be recommended to the owners for approval of the final site selection. And I also, the $20,000 in operating costs, as Councilor Durkee said, will be going through the Mariner Center, so we won't be taking that all on. It will be split. It'll come through the Mariner Center annual budget.
So the amended motion that you want on the floor, Counselor, would be conditional on provincial and federal funding, site selection,
Provincial, federal, and fundraising funding, or any funding that they recommended in their budget. I just wanna make sure that all aspects are met.
so conditional on funding from federal, provincial, and,
Municipal
Fundraising efforts
And-
and municipal partners.
and our other municipal partners.
there's really three parts to this motion. The second one was site selection, conditional on,
On the Splash Park Committee, working with the board on site selection and then recommending to the owners for final selection approval, site selection approval.
and the third part of that motion was one-third, one-third of the operational
Well,
expenses.
the operational, I guess, isn't gonna matter. I just wanna make sure that in your motion, you just recommend that we take the $20,000 through the Mariner Center. So if it runs through the Mariner Center, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, you have the floor, Counselor.
I'm thinking if it's running through the Mariner Center budget, because they will essentially be running it, then it would come up through anyway. So it would essentially go to the Mariner Center budget, and then it would be split however it's split. So,
Okay, so,
That's
You-
suggested.
yes, go ahead, Nancy. Turn on your mic, please.
Oh, sorry. So maybe the amendment around the operations and maintenance is simply that this council agrees that the board has the authority to take on that program in their operations, and then all of the pieces that go with that will flow through the natural course. Maybe that, rather than,
Sounds
worry about
good.
numbers and things like that.
Okay, so Counselor Allen made an amendment to the original motion. I'm gonna want to, I need a seconder on that amendment first, seconded by, Counselor Nick Hilton. I just need,
So the process, if I could, Mr.
Yes,
Chair, I'll
go
just
ahead.
explain the process. Yep, so the process is that when there's a main motion on the floor, which is Councillor Durkee's motion, and then there's an amendment which is moved and seconded, which has been done, that you vote on the amendment first, and then we will read the motion back into the record as amended prior to the chairman calling for the vote. So we'll just need a couple minutes. Victoria and I will work on making sure it's in there correctly, and then we'll read it back into council.
so Counselor Nick Hilton, did you second that amendment? Okay, so just to be clear, before I call for the question on that motion, I'm gonna ask the recording secretary to read that back, just to be clear. But I do believe everyone here gets the gist on the amendment to the original motion. So the first one up on the docket would be Counselor Lauren Cushing. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I must say, from their first presentation from the Splash Park Committee to their second one, the first one, I was I've always supported having a splash park, but I was not supportive that we never had the information we need to make a conscious decision. Their second presentation they made, I commend them for what they've done. They answered some pretty hard questions, and it looks like they've done their homework, and I certainly support our funding of this project. It is a worthwhile project. It's something that we need for the area of the county, and I appreciate what they've done, and thank you.
Okay, the second one on the docket would be Counselor Nick Hilton, I believe. Counselor Nick Hilton, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to thank Councillor Durkee and Councillor Allen for making this happen. I had the honor of attending one of their meetings before I was councillor, and I agree with Councillor Cushing. The amount of work that's gone into this proposal is tenfold what it was 6 months ago, and I know that's from the dedicated work that committee has done. And I am really excited for our community, for what this could bring, and I look forward to contributing in any way possible to bring this to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. The next person up on the docket would be Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. You have the floor. And Councillor Nick Hilton, if you're finished speaking, please turn off your mic. Thank you.
Yeah, the presentation was excellent, and there was additional information certainly in the second presentation, it wasn't present in the first one, but all that being said, a fantastic project, and it's gonna be great for the kids, great fun. I'm not sure if you're 54, you should really go to Splash Park, but it does sound like a lot of fun. Did get to see the splash park in Elmsdale, and it is on the side of their new pool, so the exit in Elmsdale just to the north or east of the Halifax International Airport. It's there if anybody driving by, take a stop and look. And given the time it will take the fundraising and so forth, I mean, it may be that the two projects, the Mariner Center expansion, and that come together, and that may affect the placement on the property. So it's certainly to Councillor Allen's amendments, that's a good amendment, because they're going to be working along with the splash park to make sure it goes in sort of optimally placed on the property. So that's great. No, the amendments are good, and the initial motion is great too, because it will make sure it gives the opportunity for the splash park to open. So thank you everybody, it's fantastic, and can't wait till it's done.
Okay, the next one on the docket would be Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to say to Deputy Warden, I think as long as you take small children with you, you're okay to go as a 54-year-old. Other than that, probably not. I do want to say thank you to the Splash Park for not giving up on this project. It's been a long road for them, and I think that they've done excellent work to get it to us for our approval. And I'm excited for our community, for our children to have something to look forward to. We lived in the last year of uncertainty and being cooped up at home, and I think that even though it's going to take some time, it does give us some hope and vision for the future. Thank you.
Councillor Heidi Durkee.
Thanks, everyone. I just want to say that under the circumstances we're in at the moment, I think we all need something to look forward to, and I think that will be a great addition for the kids in the area. I know when my kids were young, I took them to a splash park, and we, not just them, we had a wonderful time. So I'm looking forward to when they are able to get all the funding from all the partners so that the shovel can go in the ground. I just do want to add that in order for them to get funding from other levels of government, it was really important, or it is really important for us to support them, showing our financial support, because then they can carry that on to show the other levels of government that they do have our support.
Councillor Daniel Allen.
And just a quick note on the financial aspect of this. Now that we are throwing our support behind it, I know our CAO is busy at the moment. I'm just wondering, like, is this something that the money, the ask could actually come through our grant program? Like, is that, yeah. So it may be worthwhile to forward on to the splash park to just put an official ask in, maybe to our grant program. Even though we are agreeing to approve it now, we could run it through that program as far as that's where we'll find our funds.
Madam CAO, can you respond, please?
Sure, I can respond to that. So it's going to be hard to know what year the funds will flow through. So it'll be on the books now, it'll be recorded in the audit as a committed expense, but the year that the money flows, we will record it in the grants budget, so it will come out of your overall allotment that year. That's what our normal practice would have been. If you want something different, absolutely we can do it different, but that's what we normally would do.
Is there any more discussion on the amendment, on the original motion? Before I call for the question on that, when the recording secretary is ready to repeat it back to us, I'll say a couple words. First of all, I think this is a great project. I think it's important, and I've certainly heard throughout the years on how important some people thought about this. Originally, some people thought that I was against it. My issue was we did not have all the facts. And thank you very much to the Splash Park for coming back with the answers that we originally had. It makes this decision much easier. And I also appreciate that, people are looking forward to having something in this area, and I think it would be a great addition to the proposed Mariner Center expansion. We don't know how far that is, but another concern that I had was that if we decided to put the splash park in a certain area, how would that affect any future expansions at the Mariner Center? And I think the amended motion takes care of that. Also, if council, another point of clarification, as people may have heard, we have had one original motion on the floor, and what happened is Councilor Daniel Allen made an amendment to the motion. You can make up to 2 amendments on an original motion. So if someone wished that they would like to add an amendment on top of what was already did, what we would do is we would go back to the last motion that was made, and say if someone made, after Councilor Allen made a motion, then we go to Councilor Allen's motion, vote on that, and then we go back to the main motion and vote on that. So some people might find it a little bit confusing. This is certainly a learning experience. I know for a lot of people, it's not often that it happens. However, Recording Secretary Vicki Pierce, are you ready to repeat the amended motion?
Mr. Chair, have we had the vote on the
No, we have not had the vote on the amendment. I would like the amended motion be read back first.
So, are we reading the amendment only?
We're only reading the amendment, and then we're going back to the main motion.
So, read the amendment.
So what's gonna happen now is we're gonna read the amendment on, because that's a separate motion from the original motion. So the amendment that Councilor Allen made, we're going to vote on that. And then after we vote on that, whether it's yea or nay, then we're going to go back, and the recording secretary is gonna read back the original motion. You understand?
So the amended part of the motion was moved by Councillor Daniel Allen, seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton, to amend the main motion to add. 1, the final site selection on the Mariner Centre property be approved by the owners. 2, the municipality of the District of Yarmouth's capital financial support be conditional upon funding from other sources including municipal, provincial and fundraising at the local level. And the Mariner Centre board have the municipality of the District of Yarmouth's approval to accept the parking operations.
Okay, is everyone clear on the amendment to the original motion? Councilor Daniel Allen.
The very last section about,
To take it into their to take it into
okay,
their
yes,
operations.
yes, sorry, yes, yes.
So is council clear on the amended motion? Councilor Patty Durkee, I think.
Sorry, Vicki, could you just read the first line?
Certainly. The final site selection on the Mariner Centre property be approved by the owners.
Okay, so in other words, the other owners as well?
Before, there are only 2 owners.
There's only
Yes,
2
the
owners.
other, yeah, thank you.
Is everyone clear on the amendment on the original motion? If they are, and if there's no more discussion, then entertain a question on the amendment of the original motion.
Question.
Question being called on the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Now, Madam Recording Secretary, we gotta go back to the main motion. I'd like you to read the main motion off.
With the amendments?
No, not with the
Okay.
amendments.
Okay, sir.
We're just, because you gotta remember, the amendment is a separate motion on top of the original motion.
So the original motion was moved by Councillor Patty Durkee, seconded by Councillor Laura Cushing, to approve the request of the Splash Park Committee to locate at the Mariner Centre and provide the requested capital funds of $38,777.77 and operating funds of $20,000.
Please bear with me, council. I'm just making sure that we have the process down properly.
You see where I was going.
Right, council, my apologies on that. I'm also new at this too. What happens is, per Robert's rules, is you read the whole motion as amended. So that would mean the original motion plus the amendment on it, and we vote on that. So,
Mr. Chair,
Councilor Durkee.
I just want to fix the original motion. Should, instead of, we're not paying the $20,000 for operating, what we are doing is the operating cost of $20,000 would be added, or included in the Mariners' operating expenses. So in other words, that would be something that, the Mariners would take the responsibility of the operating. It's not that it's not the municipality paying the $20,000 for operating, it's the Mariners, and maybe you can help me with that.
You could almost take the operating rate out of your motion, because.
Oh, and the cost, $20,000 added to Mariners operating.
Yeah,
That's
because I put in the amendment that the cost,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So if I could, for clarity,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, in terms of how you want me to do this at the end of the day, it's my understanding that the amendment to roll the program into the Mariners Center operation
Yes,
basically takes out the reference to the $20,000,
perfect.
if that's okay, if that's how I understand it.
Yes, perfect, yeah.
Super. So,
That was still included?
did I have your original motion as amended, Greg?
Most certainly. So what we have as an amended motion is it was moved by Councillor Patty Durkee, seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushing, to approve the request of the Splash Park Committee to locate the Mariners Centre and provide the requested capital funds of $38,777.77 in operating funding with the following conditions. One, the final site selection of the Mariners Centre property be approved by the owners. The municipality of the District of Yarmouth's capital financial support be conditional on funding from other sources, including municipal, provincial, and fundraising. And the Mariners Centre Board have the municipality of the District of Yarmouth's approval to accept the park into its operations.
Is everyone clear on the main amended motion?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Nancy.
So just for clarity, I'm reflecting on a clarification Councillor Durkee asked for. So point number 1 in the amendment, I understand that to mean that tonight this council is saying yes, that project can go on the Mariners Centre, but where exactly on the Mariners Centre has to come back to council from the Mariners Centre board just to make sure it's in the best interest of everybody. So are we all on the same page there? Okay, good.
Is there any discussion on the main amended motion? Hearing none, I would entertain a question. Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you very much, council. The next time, I'll brush up a little bit more on Robert's rules.
Good job.
My apologies on that. I was under a misunderstanding in regards to a motion and a main motion and an amendment motion, because I didn't quite realize that the amendment goes back on the main motion. I thought that once you pass the amended motion, that was it, and then you go back to the main motion.
All good.
And you do, but as amended.
Yeah, but as amended. That's the part that I didn't quite understand. We're all new at this, or a lot of us are new at this, so thank you very much, council. Item 5.6, community beautification. Councillor Patty Durkee, you have the floor.
Oh, that's me. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. What I'd like to do is make a motion to request staff to research beautification of our villages and communities, to see what municipality of the District of Yarmouth can do to improve our area. And I want to say that this comes from a request, started as a request from our local Wesleyan Church minister, who would like to have some lights put up in the village of Port Maitland for the holiday season next year. Interestingly enough, they've done a little bit of research, and Nova Scotia Power will support some of this. And so we just have to determine what it is. It would also, what we're also looking at is possibly signage in our different communities. Maybe some areas might have floral baskets. It's just to give our areas a boost.
Thank you very much, Council. Motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. So is there any discussion? Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. I like your recommendation, Councillor Derby, and having staff look into the beautification of certain areas or areas within the municipality of Yarmouth. How can I say this politely? I don't believe that staff is entirely familiar with how to do such a project. That's just my own opinion. So maybe perhaps you and I could meet with our CAO and just give her some suggestions on what would be feasible for them to, not feasible, but what would be appropriate in certain areas, and then let staff look into it. So it is it's just not a matter of hanging up a basket of flowers somewhere. It should be quite detailed, and weather conditions should be taken into consideration, maintenance of such signage, again. There's a number of things that should be looked into, and I think it would be good to have some architects have some input from councillors who have been through this type of program before. So that's my recommendation. I'm not sure if that's acceptable or not, but that's what I'm proposing.
Is there any more discussion on that motion? I do have one thing. I think it's a great idea. But when we start talking about community beautification, I'm wondering if you know, I'm not saying that this motion is not there. I'm wondering if we should maybe have a strategy session on that regards, because council has not yet sat down and set our priorities and even did a strategy session. And maybe it would be better, this is just my opinion and my thoughts that I'm thinking out loud, that maybe we as a council could come up with a plan. And I do understand, Councilor Durkee, that this did come from a local group. I think this is a spectacular idea, because community beautification in one area might be a little bit different in another, because you gotta remember too, that what the community of Port Maitland is a little bit different than the community of Carleton. However, out here in Hebron along the Milo stretch, it's really different compared to the rural areas. So I wonder if we should maybe have, when we start speaking about strategy and stuff, that we start talking about it that way, and any ideas and recommendations that come forward should maybe come from there, because our municipality is diverse. I'm just spitballing a couple things here, speaking off the top of my head. It is not that I would probably agree to vote for the motion what you're asking for, Councillor Durkee, absolutely. I'm just wondering if there's a different way. That's maybe it should maybe, and I do know that this come from the committee as a whole, but I've been thinking quite a bit about this. Madam CEO, and then we have some councillors.
I can wait, Mr. Chair, to have the councillors speak.
It's the chair's prerogative.
It is.
So,
So I have
you
a
do have a lot of
suggestion,
advice.
I have a suggestion that maybe can bring us closer to the middle faster. So, what maybe we can do, so we do have, plans in the works for council to sit down and develop their broader global strategy. Maybe what we can do is bring some high-level information on this initiative to that strategy session, and then council can dovetail it into their broader plan after they have some information to begin to go on. Is it a grassroots initiative that council enables communities who are willing and motivated to take advantage of, or is it, are you thinking of a program that becomes part of municipal operations? So I can do some high-level research, and bring some information back about what else is happening in maybe some similar communities that have dynamics like ours to your strategy session, and then we can go from there, if that's agreeable to council.
All right, Madam CEO, you had your input, are you finished? Okay, the first one I see flashing would be Councillor Patty Rickey. You have the floor again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, CAO. Exactly, that's exactly what I was thinking, is just looking at what some things that other areas have done. I know we have a fantastic Communities in Bloom committee, and again, it would come down to, do we hire someone to go, that does this, to go and look at all the areas and make suggestions, which is something we may want to do, or do we ask different communities to form committees, and maybe we can provide some funding for whatever it is. I agree that, you know, we're just at the beginning levels of discussing this, and we're not down to the nitty-gritty. The only item that, you know, is something that I wouldn't mind looking into, and I've already forwarded that information to our CAO, is just maybe lights for next year. But on the other level, yeah, it's a much bigger project than just, you know, low-level hanging fruit. It's something bigger, but we have to get started somewhere. So I appreciate CAO Brooks's comments, and would certainly be happy with that.
Okay, the next person on the docket would be Councillor Nick Hill. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to again thank Patty. This is something we talked about at my very first committee of the whole meeting, and it was something that brought me a little bit of enjoyment, and I'm looking very much forward to, like Lauren said, talking about this as a council and coming up with ideas that can help tie our community together. So there wasn't a whole lot to do this winter with COVID, so driving around and looking at Christmas lights was enjoyable for a lot of people, and if we as a council can add to that, I'm all in favor. Thank you.
Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
I'd like to thank Councillor Gerke for bringing this forward, and the CAO, I would agree. I think that for me, it was really thinking about what staff could do to inform us as council, what the Nova Scotian power parameters are, what provincial grants are out there for communities, those kinds of things. I think that, like Councillor Hilton said, we all need something to look forward to, and if it's, you know, veterans, you know, flags up for Remembrance Day, or lights at Christmas, or, you know, hanging baskets in the summer, I think that all of those things do help with our community, and I think anything we can help boost morale in this day and age will be helpful as well. Thank you.
All right, is there any more discussion on the motion that's on the floor? And I'm going to ask our recording secretary to please repeat the motion that's on the floor.
So I have Councillor Patty Durkee moved, Councillor Daniel Allen seconded, to request staff research beautification of our communities and villages to see what we can do to improve our area.
Councillor Nick Hill.
I don't want to go down the rabbit hole again, but do we amend that motion to bring that to our strategic planning session?
Okay, there's three things, I think there's three things you can do. Number one, you can rescind the motion. Number two, you can table the motion. And number three, you can
Amend the motion?
amend it.
So I think if everybody's agreeable on the intent, we can leave it as is. And when the CAO report on council motions comes forward, we can track along the progress there, as long as the direction of council is followed.
Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 5.7. Safety issues on Highway 3 Airport Stretch. Councillor Nick Hill. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the committee of the whole meeting earlier in the month, I brought forward concerns about a section of Route 3 referred to as the airport stretch. A series of recent accidents, ongoing infrastructure changes, the already undersized paved shoulders, and the fact that it has been identified as a blue route for active transportation with little improvement over the years, are all reasons I'd like to make a motion that we write a letter to the Minister of Transportation with copies to our MLA, Zach Churchill, and our partners, the town of Yarmouth and Acadia First Nations. This motion will request an update, or we are requesting an updated study of this section of road to address the current safety issues and to see if we would qualify for any updated funding to handle the increased traffic. That's it. Thank you.
So do I have a seconder on that?
You do.
Okay, Councillor David. Is there any discussion on that motion? Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
So I like to say, I think it's an excellent motion, it's well worded, and, I've driven up the stretch a number of times, it was narrow and it's dangerous, the shoulders are fairly wide, which is, I guess a slightly positive thing, but it's, well past time for it to be improved for sure, so it's a good motion.
Councillor Maykill.
Just in addition to that, a little bit about where I'm coming from is I'm well versed in active transportation, and we talked about this at committee of the whole. In fact, it's a blue route. It was identified as the most dangerous piece of road that we have in the community in a study in 2015 as far as active transportation. And with the talk over the years of funding for these specific things, I think it's a good route that we target to make better and safer for all the residents in our community. Thank you.
Any more discussion on that motion? Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. As Councillor Hilton mentioned about, Councillor Cunningham, or Deputy Warden Cunningham mentioned about the wide shoulders along Route 3 or the airport stretch. That is a benefit to improve that section of highway and in the blue route criteria, because a lot of the work is already done there and it just needs to be upgraded to that blue route standard. So the wide shoulders is a very positive step in the right direction. So hopefully we can convince TIR to take this as one of their priorities. Thank you.
Councillor Maykill.
Once again, just in addition to this, maybe we would be looking at long-term goals of maybe a sidewalk leading to the new hotel, just put up by AFN. I want to say how great that is and what a great addition it is to our community, and just reopening those conversations with the town, the province, and Acadia First Nations on what an active transportation trail might look like in that area.
This is, I don't know what's going on here. I'm having a hard time hearing motions and stuff that's being made. Recording secretary, could you please repeat the motion that's on the floor?
So I have, it was moved by Councillor Nick Hilton, seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen to write a letter to the Minister of Transportation with copies to Zach Churchill, Town of Yarmouth, and the MLA to let them know that the condition of the road is dangerous and something needs to be done.
Okay, thank you very much. I think what's going on here is I'm having trouble hearing because your voices are bouncing off of this. I seem very confused, and I am confused because I'm having trouble hearing everything. So what I've been doing is turning off the microphone, and at times I have not been turning it back on. So anyone that doesn't hear me, that's the reason why. Thank you very much for repeating that motion. I do have one addition possibly in that regard, since no one else has a microphone on. Since it's a safety issue on Highway 3, the airport stretch, that's not all in the municipality of District of Yarmouth. Part of that thing is also in the town of Yarmouth. So I'm wondering if we should not include them in that correspondence.
They are. And Acadia First Nation is one as well.
Okay, thank you very much, council. Is there any more discussion on the motion? If not, I'd entertain a question.
Questions?
Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 6, new business. 6.1, provincial airport strategy, Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. You have the floor.
So I recently read, and of course, been widely circulated in the media that, the Sydney International Airport, Halifax International Airport have run into some issues, obviously, related to COVID and commercial flights, that type of thing. The Sydney Airport now, my understanding is, or will soon have no commercial flights, so I thought to myself, that's very rarely scheduled commercial flights. That's very much like our airport, and again, I thought I'd bring this to the council table tonight for conversation and ultimate motion. Just some background information, like Sydney Airport, they do provide light flights out of there. Light flights are mostly fixed wing, although sometimes helicopters do leave from our airport. It can also leave, my understanding is, from the hospital itself, or regional health center. But when the weather conditions aren't good enough, in the winter especially, for helicopters to fly fixed wing aircraft, transport critical patients to Halifax for treatment, for life-saving treatment. So that's a tremendously important thing. As you're all aware, our airport has a lot of deferred maintenance. One of the two runways is currently shut down. So there are issues there. And because of that, and because we still have about 1,400 touches per year, it's substantial. We have charter flights, we have military aircraft, refueling. I think the RCP used it to fly a bunch of their members in when we had the fisheries crisis here. On and on and on. It's an important asset for the area. And as you're also well aware, only 3 units own it. Us, town, and so our municipal ratepayers are left to shoulder the full burden of the cost of it. It's a very, very important asset for, obviously, life-saving measures. It's important commercially, and it's important, I think, for our economic and development of the future. Having said that, I think that we need to work along with our partners, including the province, to develop a provincial airport strategy. And the reason I'm saying that is we really do need a frame in which to think about airports and air transportation around the province. Obviously, other airports are now experiencing issues. I think the time's come for us to talk about it collectively as a province, not just individually. So I'd like to make a motion that we write TIR, copy Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities, Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities, HRM, CBRM, our member of parliament, and our MLA, asking that the framing of a provincial airport strategy become a priority.
Okay, motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Okay. A motion on the floor by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. Councillor Patty Durkee seconded the motion. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councillor Trevor Cunningham, your mic is still on, so you have the floor, and I do believe
I'll
Councillor
just
Patty
quickly
Durkee
add, I
seconded.
neglected to also include the town of Yarmouth and Argonne as well. So just a copy of
Okay, so is that okay with the seconder that
Absolutely.
quick amendment to be? Okay. Councillor Patty Durkee, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Trevor. Right now, the whole aeronautics industry is in unfortunately deep trouble, across Canada with COVID. But at some point in the near future, hopefully within the next year, things are going to start to turn around once everybody's been vaccinated. And the one thing I've always said about our area is we have so much to offer, but we're desperately lacking transportation. And not that anything is going to happen in the short term, but I think that with what has happened across the province, I agree that we have to start looking at what's the best strategy moving forward once the air industry opens up again, and how can we make that work for everybody, not just HRM and CBRM, because we're just as important at this end of the province, and we certainly do lack transportation, and so I'm happy that this motion has been put forth. No bus, no train, no plane, and no boat at the moment, so that's just an ongoing problem, so thank you, yes.
Thank you very much, Council. Councilor Lauren Cushing, you have the floor.
Councillor Durkee made a great comment that we're just as important as Halifax, Regional Halifax and CRBM, but unfortunately, they don't think that way. So I think it's up to us to really try to convince them that we're all equal, because we own airports. We may not be big as the other two, but we do have an airport and we are just as important. And I agree with Councilor Durkee that, you know, we are just as important, and if we do develop strategy with our partners in the province, we should certainly stress that Southwest Nova Scotia is here and is important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Council. I don't know if the Deputy Warden had said that, but there's one important point in that motion that I don't know if you alluded to, because it's almost like I'm sitting in a box up here unless I turn off my mic and I can hear you. One thing, I don't know if you already made this point, but it's one of 3 international airports in Nova Scotia: Yarmouth, Halifax, and CBRM. So that's a very important point. You might have mentioned it, but I just wanted to make sure that it's not necessarily needs to be in the motion, but the rationale behind the reason why we should be at the table, we're also designated even an international airport, even though we don't have a scheduled passenger service coming in. Deputy Warden.
Yes, I didn't mention that explicitly, but I did include CBRM and
Yes.
HRM in the copy is part of it. That's part of the rationale. I'd also like to mention that we should probably also copy Acadia First Nations, since they're so close to the airport, and I think they'd be interested in hearing the news that we're asking for permission.
Okay, is there any more, Madam CAO? You have the floor.
Just maybe, we should also carbon copy the corporation, Yarmouth International Airport Corporation.
Yes.
It just so happens I happen to be the chair of that, so it's not going to go unnoticed, Deputy Warden. Is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Item 6.2, council appointment to Joint Police Advisory Committee. Madam CAO, I do believe you have that item?
I do, thank you, Mr. Chair. After the election, when you sat down and discussed your boards and committees appointments, you missed this one. And we are required by the Police Act, because of our contract with the RCMP and the municipality of Argyle, to have a joint police advisory committee. So under the act, we're required to appoint 2 elected officials to that. So, Mr. Chair, I would ask that council consider making that appointment this evening. Just for information, we had Councillor Lauren Cushing and, in fact, you, Mr. Warden, and, from the last council. And we have 2 citizen reps, Mr. Bill Carroll and Mr. Ken Williams.
What is the wishes of council? I do see Councillor Lauren Cushing, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I would certainly be interested in sitting on that police advisory committee again.
Councillor Nick Hilton, I think. No, sorry, Councillor Sherry Roller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is this the point where we actually can nominate people to do that? Are they to nominate Nick Hilton?
I'm not sure how council wants to do this, but we could do it that way, ask for nominations from the floor. Or someone could just make a motion in that regards to appoint 2 council members.
Do you want to do that first?
Whatever the wishes of council would be. Councilor Nick Hilton, you have the floor.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint 2 representatives from council to the joint,
Please state their names and I'll ask them if they accept.
police advisory committee. Want me to, can't state myself?
Yes, you can.
No. That we appoint Lauren Cushion and Nick Hilton to the joint police advisory committee.
A motion on the floor, do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councilor Sherry Hurlbert. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councilor, actually, I looked into this. You can nominate yourself to do something. As funny as it may seem, it is possible to do that. And if council wishes not to appoint you, they can easily vote the motion down. So there's nothing that I've ever read in Robert's rules or anything in the MGA Act that says you can't. So a motion on the floor to appoint Councilor Nick Hilton and Councilor Lauren Cushing to the Police Advisory Committee. Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. I'd say that I feel a little bit put out that I'm not reappointed to that, but however, as warden, I'm allowed to sit incognito in any meeting that municipality district has, so. Thank you very much. Advisory committee appointments. What is the wishes of council? MCAL?
Sure, Mr. Chair, just want to point out, so in the public package, the names of the individuals are provided, but for privacy reasons, their detailed applications are on your desk and in hard copy form. So the details behind their applications, they do qualify to serve under the requirements of the Accessibility Act. We do require 2 citizen reps. And just will ask that you leave those hard copies on your desk.
Councilor Lauren Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Now, is this appropriate now to make a motion that we accept the 2 nominations that we have on for the accessibility committee? You need a motion on that?
Yes, we do.
I'll make that motion that we accept these 2 individuals on our accessibility advisory committee.
Motion on the floor, do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councilor Sherry Hurlbert. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councilor Sherry Hurlbert.
I'd just like to say thank you to the citizen reps who put their name forward. Anytime that we ask the community to help us with the tasks at hand, it's greatly appreciated. So I'm glad that we can actually get this committee off the ground and get it up and running and look forward to what we can do in the future. Thank you.
Is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor?
Question?
Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Item 6.4, November Development Report. You all have that? There's too many. Can everyone turn off their mics, please?
I just turned it on.
Oops. Sorry.
All right, now start up. Councilor Patty Durkee, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment on the November and December reports that it's really impressive to see during these times the increase in the development in the municipality of the district of Yarmouth. It's a great place to live and it's a great place to do business, and so we welcome those who are building and adding on and renovating, which seems to be going on a lot in our community. So I thank all those individuals for doing that, and I thank our staff for keeping up with it, because I know they've been busy. So I'll make a motion to accept the November development report as presented.
Motion on the floor to accept the November development report is presented, is seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Item 6.5, December development report. You'll have that in your package. Councillor Daniel Allen.
I'm going to echo the sentiment that Councillor Durkee made. Really happy to see what's going on in our community. And I'm going to make a motion to accept the December development report as circulated.
Motion on the floor by Councillor Daniel Allen, seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee. Any discussion? Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Right, I see that year-over-year development, as per Councillor Durkee's comment, is up 23%, which is a sizable increase. And just maybe through you, Mr. Chair or CEO, is there anything other than just general increase in development in the municipality that would account for that number, or is it just that one thing, just general increase in activity?
So the activity is generally spread over investments on the residential side of our assessment roll. We have had some improvements to the commercial side of the roll, but I think that what we've seen around the world is happening here too, that people are just investing in home.
Very good.
Thank you very much for that. One comment I'd like to make is District 1, which is my district, happens to be the largest district in the municipal district of Yarmouth. It's not as busy, or it doesn't seem as busy, but I can assure you that there's been a lot of activity in sales of lands and stuff, so fully expect to see that actually continue to increase development.
There's actually a skewing in District 1 by season. We see a lot more activity in the spring and summer in District 1, and it quiets down in winter time.
But I do know of a lot of plans out in that area where people are planning to move to stay, so I fully expect it, and I'm glad to see that it seems to be pretty steady. Some districts are up 1 month, other districts are up, but it's not in one specific area. It seems to be spread all across the municipality district here, and that's absolutely a good thing. So a motion on the floor to accept the December development report. Is there any more discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Item 6.6, CAO report. You'll have that in your package. You have any questions, comments, concerns for the CAO? If not, I entertain a motion to accept the report as presented. Councillor Patty Durkee.
I just want to make note of the announcement by Development Nova Scotia and us, because it's a joint project, about the improvements, the third phase of the rural internet, and to thank all those individuals who let us know about their service and who contacted the Western Wren about the lack of service, because we've been able to accommodate all those requests. And so it's really exciting to see the improvements, and, you know, talking about economic development in our area, the more we improve the rural internet in our area, the more sales, I think, of property you'll be seeing. Because so many people are able to work from home now, that businesses understand it's actually less expensive, and then it's certainly less expensive to live here than in other areas of Canada. So right now, that things are changing, which is pretty awesome. So I just thank you to everyone for working diligently on that file. Oh, and I'll move to approve the CAO report as presented.
Motion on the floor to accept the motion as presented by Councilor Patty Durkee, seconded by Councilor Warren Question. I did turn on your mic. I don't know who's first now. Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to thank our CEO. Obviously, by reading the report, you've been very busy in directing things pretty effectively, because we've got a lot of projects on the go, which is fantastic in process. Just saying, we've got the steering committee up for the Lake Milo project, and they've, I guess, reviewed RFPs for some preliminary work there. And Cape Shoe Climb the Light Experience, we're gonna be kicking that off soon, and we're gonna be able to, I think, go to the top of the lighthouse, which never been done for a long, long time, but the public's been able to go there, so that's exciting. Again, we talked about 62-hour Pond Drive, it's a big project, $2 million, got announced this week, so it's 100 jobs and maybe lots more coming to the municipality district of Yarmouth. The ferry terminal, $9 million project, it's ongoing. You know, all the Mariner Center work, you know, we're not where we'd like to be, but, we'll get there with the hard work of our councils and staffs, all of us in the region. And again, the engineering work that's being carried out in Port Maitland and in Hebert on the sidewalk. So those are just a few of the projects, so it's really an ambitious agenda for council, and I know we're all working hard and we're gonna see good things happen, so thank you.
Councillor Sherry Grover.
I want to echo Councillor Durkee's thanks to Development Nova Scotia and Ren for the announcement of Phase 3. It seems the majority of Phase 3, those 410, seem to be in my district and Councillor Durkee's. And as much as my residents may have been disappointed over the fact of the end date for this, they were grateful that they didn't get completely left off the map in round 3. So I am thankful for all of those people who worked hard to get those people on the map for that. And I want to echo what Deputy Warden said about all of the projects that we do have going on in the municipality. We're not sitting still, we're actually moving forward. We have lots of things on the go, and so it's good to see all of those things. And I am excited about Climb the Light. I probably sitting by my phone the day that we can register for the soft launch of that. I'm looking forward to it. And there's so many other exciting things that we are doing, and it's good that the public can actually see those and know that we're not just sitting back, resting on whatever it is councillors do, because I'm still learning what councillors do. But I think that this is a great report by the CAO, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Herbert. You're still learning what to do, the warden is still learning what he's got to do, so. I'd also like to echo Council's comments about the CEO's report, and just remember, we haven't sat down for our strategic planning or capital priorities yet, so we've got a lot on our plate, and we've got a lot more coming, so we're not standing still, full throttle. Is there a motion on the floor? Or was that me? There is. Like I said, it's not that I'm having a lot of trouble with this boss. Some people doesn't see. I'm having trouble hearing.
And I find the thank you too.
Yeah, and that's another thing. That seems to be echoing in here. So there is a motion on the floor. So I entertain a motion. Or a question on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Item 6.7, which was in addition to the agenda, Mariner Center / YMCA. Councillor Allen, you wish to have this added? You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wish to have this added. I'm going to make a motion for discussion. And I want my motion to be that I would like the warden of the district of the municipality of Yarmouth, in conjunction with our CAO, to form some type of press release. Now, this is going to overlap with what we had mentioned earlier, that I would like some things clarified. Okay. I guess before we get going, I want to make a motion for the warden of the district of the municipality of Yarmouth and our CA, in conjunction with our CAO, to release some type of press release explaining the process that brought us from why the YMCA closed to our Mariner Center Expansion Committee and what is taking place, which is going to echo the same thing that a motion was made earlier.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushing. And actually the noise that is really bothering me is off. So now I can hear you. So thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion that's on the floor? Councillor Daniel Allen.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. So, I made that motion. I'm a little disappointed in what's taking place in our community right now. I think the enthusiasm of a lot of people pushing for the bridge to be completed at, I don't have the exact address, but the aquatics facility on Main Street, the Centennial Pool. I think it's great that they have the enthusiasm to do it. What I'm disappointed in is the fact that it seems to be that for some reason, our municipality seems to be taking the brunt of the brunt of the criticism, I guess. I think we've been as transparent as any municipality in this. We voted, there seems to be a misconception, I'm gonna say this, and I could be wrong, but there seems to be a misconception that it's because of us that the YMCA has decided to fold up and move on. That's why I want this brought out. We voted in council to refuse, I don't know if refuse is the word, but not to accept the proposal that was given to us from the YMCA, asking for the amount of $1.5 million to reopen the doors and another almost $8 million over a few number of years to keep it going. I don't believe that any of the three councils approved that motion. I don't believe any of them accepted it. I know there was a couple monetary numbers thrown out there to give to them, but when we voted on that, as far as I was concerned, it was an all or nothing request from the YMCA. So we didn't offer anything. I don't believe if we'd offered anything, it would have helped anyway. I feel bad the Y moved on, but it was too much of an ask for the three municipalities, and the other two municipalities followed suit as well. We did ours in open council. I don't know exactly where the town of Yarmouth stood, if they did theirs in open council, if they did theirs in closed doors. I'm not sure where the municipality of Argyle did theirs. But I know that we all agreed that we couldn't sustain the YMCA as presented in their request. Then we moved on to the Mariner Center expansion, and right now we have a committee, and all three municipalities again agreed to follow an agreement on how this was going to take place. We formed a committee, then we formed two subcommittees, one from being the bridge, and I actually sit on it. And why it's out there that we are not in support of the YMCA building, nothing has been brought forward to our committee. I'll say it right here. We haven't been presented with anything from anyone yet on any type of solution to bridge the gap between where we are now and the new build. I just want to make sure that the public knows where our municipality stands. I think it should be out there. I feel that the criticism that the municipality of the District of Yarmouth is getting right now, I won't say it's unfair. Everyone has their opinion, and everyone's opinion should be respected. Everyone's ideas should be respected. But we have been answering emails, and I'm glad we're getting them. It shows enthusiasm. It shows that people care about what's going on in our community. And I know that you yourself, Mr. Warden, have been answering them with, I won't say a generic email, but just referring them back to the process that we are following. And I think that's great, because we do have a process. I just want to make sure that we are standing up for ourselves. I believe we deserve to stand up for ourselves. Our community needs to know that we are here, that we are working towards bridging this gap. We are going to find the best solution. It's going to have to do with the community. It's going to have to do with the fiscal amount, but we are going to find the best solution to keep people swimming in this community. We are not going to go without a pool of some type, or people not in a pool. It's not going to happen. I think all three councils are in support of that. I know they are. So for the people that are out there watching and the people that are going to review this, the municipality in the District of Yarmouth is on your side. Like, we have another project that we are working towards, and it is the big picture. And unfortunately, right now, things seem like they're dragging, but they won't. Things should be picking up really soon. We had to appoint a few more people to the committee, and we should be meeting soon. And I just want to clarify and clear the air so that everyone knows that we are working towards a solution. Thank you.
Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want the public also to know that we have been answering your emails. Anything that has been sent to me, I have replied to you. I think that it's important that the public has a voice and that they know that we are listening to their voice. Their concerns haven't gone unheard, and I would agree with what Councillor Allen said, that, you know, we are working toward the processes of going as fast as we all would like. As a new councillor, I'd have to say probably not, but that's learning for me. But I think that it is important for the public to know that the municipality of the District of Yarmouth is working towards something. And when those committees who are representing us, those representatives on the committee for the municipality of Yarmouth, will bring those reports and recommendations back to us, and we will vote on them as a council. I appreciate the emails and phone calls and Facebook messages that I've been getting, and I value them as a new councillor. And I can tell you that part of the major discussion on the campaign trail was, you know, accessibility to, you know, a pool facility. And I still think, and it's evident in the conversations that are happening out in the general public, and I do, as well as Councillor Allen, want the public to know that we are working toward the best solution to resolve this issue.
Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. I certainly agree with what Councillor Allen had to say and Councillor Hurlbert had to say. It's unfortunate that our municipality has been singled out as the deterrent for having a swimming pool and that will benefit Yarmouth County as a whole. And as you have, Mr. Warden, you have referred to them to check the website that explains everything, but still they seem to be pointing the finger at the municipality for being at fault even before the election started, and they're still doing it after the election is over with, and trying to use that as a leverage to do what, I don't know, but we have a process that we're following, and we should continue following that. We are put in a place to make tough decisions at times, and when the decisions has to come one way or the other, it's going to be tough. It's worth debate, and and people have got to understand it's okay to agree to disagree on something, but we're all individual councillors, and we all have the right to speak for a project or projects, in which we do, and I'd just like to see the citizens of the municipality of Yarmouth respect the process that we are going through, which has been explained by our warden and has been backed up by our councillor Allen, who sits on one of those boards. So I just have to say that I believe our council is very supportive of a swimming pool that will benefit Yarmouth County as a whole. And let's keep that focused, and when the time comes, we will make a decision. Thank you.
Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, everybody, for your input. We've been inundated in the last few days with emails explaining everybody's, or not everybody, a large number of people are showing their interest in saving the pool that we have now. And I know that there was some talk about looking at options for other than the wide pool. In my opinion right now, that it is the most accessible pool location for people in the municipality of the District of Yarmouth. And I know a lot of people in the community need it for many different reasons. So at this point, I think we have to, when the meeting occurs next week, it's, you know, what's the best way forward, and that includes, you know, how, and that will certainly include how can the municipality help with that. But everybody has to understand that you can't just say, yeah, you know, I mean, I support the opening, I do, but there are a lot of things that have to be lined up first before that we can make that decision, and that is, we don't know where programming is yet, we don't know what operating expense is, so we can't just write a blank check to say, yes, yes, we're gonna open the pool and no matter how much it costs. And that's what people have to understand, is that we're not at that point yet. And we're not at the point where we know how much the whole thing is gonna cost. We have an idea from the most recent report, what has to happen in the next 5 years, but there's still that blank piece. And I think, and I don't wanna make any assumptions, but I'm hoping that's something that, our CAOs and the committee will be working on to look at, in the meeting Thursday, I believe, to say, okay, where are we going and how are we gonna get there? I think once we get to that point, then, I think a lot of fears will be alleviated. And one of the comments I think is that, that the arena continued to operate, until the new Mariners Center was built. And I think people feel that our local pool needs to operate until the new pool is built. And I can understand that, for those who've been involved in swimming, or kids for swimming lessons, or seniors using the pool for heart programs, etc. And the fact that it is a community center for our youth and to bring seniors together. So I'd like to say that we are moving forward. We do have the process which we are following, and that, we're looking forward to the recommendations from the committee coming back after next week's meeting. And I think that knowing that there's a meeting next week where everybody's coming together is just helpful information for the community.
Any more? Councillor Daniel Allen.
I do have to make an apology. I said that the Yarmouth Council may have voted behind closed doors. I didn't want to insinuate that it was something inappropriate. I guess the term I should have used was in camera. I just thought of that after I was searching for it when I was thinking, but I do want to clarify that. I definitely don't want to insult the town by saying that they were doing something that they shouldn't have been doing. But our transparency as far as our municipality has been upfront the whole process. And I just believe that, I don't know where the paintbrush comes from that's painting us in a bad way. I don't quite understand. I wish it wasn't there, but it is. And I agree for the most part, and I'm gonna go back to something Councillor Durkee mentioned, is the programming, and that's the main concern right now. We're trying to build a bridge to get us from where we are, or where we were, to a new pool. And to me, programming is the main issue. We need to know what programs we need to offer and the best way to offer them. And then we work towards the facility to put them in. And I'm fully in support of the YMCA building. If that is the building that we need to use, then I have no problem supporting that. I just believe that there were other ideas out there, and everybody's idea is important, and it doesn't matter who it is. And if those ideas, all of them should be looked at. We should always look at every avenue when we're moving forward. I don't believe we should tunnel vision at one thing right from the start. I never have believed that. I believe we should have a wide vision, and then select the best route. And if that is the best route, then that's the way we gotta go. We've all seen, or I think we've all heard about the recommendations of the town engineer to the town of how much it would cost to fix it. And in keeping that in mind, that is the pool only. So we are getting a lot of emails about pool and fitness center and things like that. And as of right now, what was presented to the town was pool only. I'm pretty sure. I think they revised it to find out what it would cost just to operate the pool.
Can I interject here a little, just for a second, because all that speculation, we don't have a formal report of that, nor have we actually sat down as a group in that regards. But I'm gonna speak to the motion you
Because I read the report.
I don't think that's up for debate here because it's not a council. You may continue on if you wish.
I'm good. No, I'm good, Mr. Chair. No, I just, like I said, I made the motion, I just would like, my main goal was to make sure we get some type of press release out, just explaining where we started and where we're gonna end up.
All right, Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
But I think this conversation is good because it does bring out the fact that we do need to collect additional information through the processes that we put in place with the other two units, before we can move, quickly ahead, and certainly sooner is better in many respects. But, having said that, the issue of the pool workout area, that type of thing, my understanding when the Y was there, they relied heavily on the not pool for revenue generation. I mean, we know the pool's important because the swimming's important, the swim team's important, the therapeutic aspects of the pool's important. But really a lot of the revenue generation, because it's not that expensive to have, just a heated space open, right? Like the gymnasium or something like this with they own the weightlifting equipment, all that type of thing. It's relatively low cost and does attract a lot of people. So that in the gymnasium area probably attracted a lot of folks and kept the membership up and kind of floated the pool, so to speak, to an extent. But the pool is certainly the area where most of the expense occurs for obvious reasons. It's wet, has a lot of maintenance, and it has a lot of heating requirements and maintenance requirements and all those types of things. As well as it's got to be supervised pretty carefully and all those types of things. So there's all those fixed and variable costs. So having said that, I am on the new build committee, and those will be conversations about what type of program will be offered and what type of structure will be built moving forward. So I'm looking forward to that work, and I'm looking forward to hearing the report from the committee that's dealing with the bridge as well. Thank you.
Any more discussion? I'm gonna, clerk, please repeat the motion that's on the floor and I'm gonna speak to it.
So the motion I have is it was moved by Councillor Daniel Allen, seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushing to ask the Warden of the Municipality of the District of Yarmouth and the CAO to create a press release explaining the process from the closure of the YMCA to the new expansion at the Mariner Centre.
All right, thank you very much. I have no problem with that at all, to be very honest. I don't know where to begin on this and I don't want to speak too long on it. As you all know, that I've received, I haven't actually counted them, but there's no more than 35 emails. I CC'd every one of you in that regards, all the response. Councillor Daniel Allen, you said they are a form letter. Actually, they are, to a point. I knew those emails were coming because of some stuff on Facebook, so I drafted up my own response, pointing out the process that the municipality of District of Yarmouth has been following. And anybody that knows me knows that I follow policy and recommendations and stuff to a T. I try not to deviate from them whatsoever. I have, however, made the point of actually referring to the person that wrote there, and as you all may notice on your CCs that I give you, there's always something in there added, because some of these people I know, some of them I don't, some of them I know they live outside the municipality, some of them actually know the process that we're going through and they just wanted to express their concern, and I'm more than happy to do that, but I do make a point to make it sure there's a personal touch, that I actually do it, rather than just giving everyone the same form email. Now with that said, there was something mentioned here that next week we're going to give recommendations. We are having a Manor Center Expansion Committee meeting next week. That is not what that meeting is intended for. As you all remember, back on, I think it was January the 13th, the Municipality District of Yarmouth agreed to a revised terms of reference. And basically what that terms of reference did was added one more member. Previously it was myself and Councillor Allen. What that revised terms of reference did was add the deputy warden into the mix. So what this meeting coming up for is of the main committee. That's not of the two subcommittees. That's not the bridge committee, or that's not the new build committee. Because you got to remember, the way that this committee is set up is we have the main committee that makes the recommendations to council, but the two subcommittees, whether the new build or whether the bridge, they're the ones that do the legwork. That's where the recommendations come from. That meeting that's coming up on, I think it's the 4th of February, please correct me someone if I'm wrong on that. That meeting come up is to add and decide on how these committees are gonna be set up, since every council is adding one elected member to those committees. The new bill committee, we're humming right along on that. We made recommendations to engineers to go back and try to fill in some gaps. The new bill, the last time that committee met was, I believe, just before the election, and myself and Councillor Allen went to the former YMCA building for a tour. From my understanding, also, since that tour of that building, a previous deputy mayor of the town of Yarmouth, who was the chair of the bridge committee at that time, did not reoffer. So from my understanding, that committee has not met since. So, Councillor Allen, you had mentioned the YMCA building. And the emails that I'm getting recommending that we open the Y. As I told everyone here, the Municipality District of Yarmouth has agreed to the Mariner Center Expansion Committee terms of reference. So the process that I am following as per my council's or your recommendation is to follow that to a T. So any recommendations that come forward is going to come from the bridge. Whether that includes the property owned at 275 Main Street, or if it's some other facsimile of that. And any engineering reports, whether it's one that was just recently reviewed or the early one that we all know of, is $1.5 million just to open up the building. There's a big discrepancy between the two engineering reports. And I'm gonna ask the CEO a question here in a second in that regards. The bridge committee is where the legwork is done. It's not done here. There's no superseding the process as far as I'm concerned. And as we all remember, on the second week of January, all councils that agreed to this terms of reference voted for it unanimously. And it would be unwise, in my opinion, as chair of the Mariner Center Expansion Committee, to supersede that procedure. Too many times things get off the rails. As far as I'm concerned, if we follow a process that we've all laid out and all agreed to unanimously, we gotta make sure we follow that process and don't deviate. And that's the way that I've been directed by my council to do, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Madam CEO, in regards to the first engineering report by MCW Miracle, is that open to the public, or is there anywhere that can be accessed, or is it confidential or protected information?
I understand that document is a public document at this point because council is no longer negotiating an offer from the YMCA board. Your decision has been made. So negotiations qualify for in-camera while you're negotiating, but once council makes a decision, the content of those negotiations become public. So the MCW AmeriCorps report that was commissioned by the YMCA board but paid for by the 3 municipalities last year, in my view, is a public document, and we can post it.
Okay, I know this is, do we need a motion of council after we discuss this motion to address that to find the legal information on that?
If you would like a legal opinion, Mr. Jeff Cartwright, beside
Well, see, the thing of it is what I was wondering is, he would have to look into it, but,
he might know right now.
yeah.
Well, I guess,
Take the mic, please. There you go, you're on.
so is that better? I guess my first thought on it was that I would agree with what our CEO indicated. Obviously, it's a report that we paid for. There are no further negotiations. Obviously the matter was, for lack of a better term, dead after the vote was made. My guess is if somebody made a FOIPOP application in relation to that, that could be released in any respect. But I would like perhaps, before I make a final opinion on that, because I've never seen this report, perhaps if I could have an opportunity to look at the report and just be given a brief history of how it came to be, because normally in relation to that, apart from some meetings I may have been at, I wouldn't have the whole history of basically what went down.
Exactly, and that's the whole point why I said that maybe we should get a legal opinion, and sometimes he would have to go back and do a little bit of homework, and that's the reason why I mentioned that. But actually, I'd like that looked into personally. That would be the wishes of council, but however, there is a motion on the floor currently. Is there any more discussion on that motion? Councillor Patty Durkee.
Just a recommendation that, I'm not disagreeing with the motion. I agree that we need to be clear and transparent. I'm just wondering though, if we may wait until after the committee meets on Thursday so that we can add that newest, whatever new piece that comes out from that meeting from the committee.
Absolutely. Or at least, I shouldn't say absolutely, I shouldn't speak on behalf of council until they voted on the motion, but I would be in agreement with that. So is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. I would request a brief recess of approximately 5 minutes. So if someone would like to make a motion in that regard, moved by Councillor Sherry Rolliver.
I'll make a motion to recess for 5 minutes.
Motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you, council. I'd like to call this meeting back to order. Thank you very much. Item 6.7 has been taken care of. Motion was passed unanimously. Item number 7, for correspondence, 7.1.1. This is for your council's information in the Tuscan Dam project, debris. 7.1.2, Nova Scotia EMO vaccine rollout. 7.1.3, correspondence from Minister Fury. I'll get to you, Councillor. 7.1.4, Tourism Assistance Fund. And item 7.1.5, response to the regional planning request. Councillor Allen?
I just want to go back to the debris in the Tuscan River.
I was actually going to speak to that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you go right ahead and I'll make a comment after.
I was just going to mention, the only thing that I was going to talk about in the correspondence for information was I was going to point out, since I drive by that dam every day, over the past 3 days, there's been employees of Nova Scotia Power who have been cleaning up the debris in the riverway below the dam. They've been doing this for the past 3 days. So that's what I was going to mention. I just wanted you to know that that action has been taking place. I don't know if they finished today or if they're just finishing up, but I can tell you, because I've seen it with my own eyes, that that has been cleaned up.
I guess the question I was going to ask is the debris from them or is it litter?
No.
It's from them?
I think some's from them where they had some coverings over some of the beams and stuff was there, but it was also, from what I seen on the side of the road, there was also litter there.
Okay. I think at some point we're gonna have to add litter in our community to a committee of the whole meeting, because it seems to be becoming a major issue in a lot of our areas. Or I know my area for sure. I travel through other ones, and littering is becoming an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to add that to a future committee of the whole meeting, just send me an email, me and the CAO an email in that regard, and we can have that at a future committee of the whole. I don't know if we have room for February, March, because our schedule is quite big or quite large, but however, that said, you can request it be held on a certain date, we can accommodate that, and I certainly will.
Yeah, I definitely think, because I'm starting to get calls about litter, and I think we have an issue, so yes, I'll be emailing you, we'll get it on as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you. So those correspondence for information, 7.1.1 through to 0.5 is for information. Excuse me, item 7.2 for action, 7.2.1, Yarmouth Splash Park Committee appointment request. Who has that? MCAO.
Sure, so there's correspondence in the package, Mr. Chairman, requesting or providing an opportunity for council to appoint an elected official to sit on the Splash Park group.
What is the wishes of council? Do you wish to appoint someone? And if you do wish to appoint someone, who do you wish to appoint? Councillor Daniel Allen.
Well, since we've just approved their project, and it is going to be going at the Mariner Center, I'm wondering if it would just be appropriate, instead of appointing one of us to the committee, to maybe just see if we can have maybe Duran, our manager out at the Mariner Center, be kind of like a liaison to bring it to the, to keep us informed as to what's going on, or at least keep the board informed, which would then come through me and back to council anyway. Just a thought.
Just a thought. If you wish to make that a motion after our discussion, you certainly may. Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know that the other two municipalities in the area both have a representative that attends those meetings. And just to stay on course, if you're okay with that, I'm more than willing to sit on that committee. So I don't know if we have to address what Daniel said first, but I can make a motion that I will attend the Splash Park Committee, seeing how I can nominate myself.
MCAO.
So just thinking about, so it's important to support the community group. This is a grassroots effort and people are passionate about it. So it's important to provide support to them. That's what they're asking for. They're asking for different perspectives at the table, different viewpoints. There is an advantage to what Councillor Allen is raising that's interesting to me, and it's because the group will be seeking funding from the municipalities and will be negotiating with the board on where to put it and on how to hand the project over to, if the board agrees to accept it, how to hand the project over. If there are elected officials on the Splash Park group and then there's conflict, because there's negotiations involved, there could be an advantage to asking the board if they would appoint Duran to do that. First of all, I think that Duran would be a great connection and could report back to the councils on how the work is going. And it might, and I'm not saying there would be conflict, but I'm saying that this would be a way to ensure there isn't conflict. So it's an interesting thought.
What is the wishes of the council? Is there any more discussion on that request or any more recommendations and or motions? Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
I think because I agree with what the deputy, I agree with what our CEO is saying entirely, because we've had experiences before where councillors have been part of like a community group, and that does often create a conflict, because you always talk about the funding piece back at the council table, so that can cause the person that's on the committee have to step away from the vote in the debate and so forth. So that can be very problematic. But having said that, you gotta weigh that. I mean, we've got a community group. The thing's already almost in play in the sense that my understanding through Nick is that the other two units have already appointed a rep, and but I do agree that the manager at the Mariner Center would be valuable. So I guess maybe what I suggest is if we were to make contact with the Yarmouth Splash Park Committee, floater idea maybe of having Duran as our rep, that you know, seeing they approve of that, that would be all right, but I wouldn't like to deviate tonight, from that, unless we had sort of approval of the Yarmouth Splash Park Committee.
So what I'm hearing here so far is maybe you want to bring this back to the next committee of the whole for a little bit more discussion, so staff can do a little bit more research in that respect. Is that the wish of
I think that's
council?
wise.
To defer this back to a committee of the whole? Not saying no, not saying yes, but there was a few good points that were brought up here. And I don't, and another thing too, in regards to this request, I don't know if this request is in regards to design, or if they're gonna be, of course, as per tonight, we requested that. So I'm really starting to question if councillors that are part of that committee are appointed, what can they partake in and what can they cannot partake in, but these are some questions I think that maybe, rather than voting on this tonight, I think I'd entertain a motion to defer this to another committee of the whole for further in-depth discussion, so staff can do their work. So if that's the wishes, I'd entertain a motion in that regard, because I'm not saying no, I'm not saying yes, I'd like a little bit more information first. What is the wishes of council? Deputy Ward?
Yeah, I'll move that we defer it to the next committee of the whole and have staff follow up with answering some of those questions with the Splash Park Committee and our manager over at the Mariner Center to see who would be best suited to sit on the committee, given everything we talked about.
All right, motion on the floor, do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushing. Councillor Lauren Cushing, there's a motion on the floor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Some very good points were made by our CAO and Councillor Allen, and I appreciate Councillor Hilton wanting to sit on the board. It's very important to be hands-on some of these committees so that you can have a good feel and you can relate back to us as a council what's going on. But on the point of, I've sat on a committee, and I know Councillor Derby has sat on a committee before, that when funding comes up, we had to leave the meeting for council to make a decision on the funding part. So, you know, I think it's a good thought for us to bring it back to our committee of the whole to just to expand on some information and see which road we should take. I appreciate Councillor Hilton stepping up to the plate where he's already been to some of these meetings from time to time. But even if we've never had an appointed councillor to sit on these meetings, you still can. Because I sat in on meetings, matter of fact, I gotta go on tomorrow. It's not appointed by council or anything, but I go there for information and to just to try to get a better feeling of what's going on in our community on different things. And matter of fact, I attended one the other day with Zoom, which was a very interesting one also. So I think it'd be worthwhile for us to take it back and committee the whole, just discuss more. Thank you, Councillor Hilton.
Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess the idea behind me sitting on the committee was more just to show them that we were supportive. I know from what we've done here tonight, there's already some talk on social media about how excited they are to have the approval of the Mariner Center and the funding. And I don't want to jeopardize that in any way possible, and I know that I'll be there to support them in any way I can. And I think Durham being part of building that policy and procedure and location and all that would be really exciting for him and for us. And I look forward, he's going to be the one to hopefully oversee on the park in the end, so I think that's a great recommendation, and I know the committee will be happy with whatever we do to support them. So thank you for all the great discussion.
All right, thank you, Councillor. There is a motion on the floor to defer this to the next committee of the whole meeting in February. Is there any more discussion on that?
Question?
Question being called on that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Okay, moving on. Item 7.2.2, extended producer responsibility. There's a request here from a Councillor Jennifer, I don't dare to say this name, Hawktown?
Good.
Hatam. My apologies if she happens to be watching from another municipality. I did not try to get the proper wording of that name, so I apologize if I misspoke. Madam CAO, you have the floor. I believe you can speak to this request.
Sure, I'll just share for the record, Mr. Chairman, when the email came through, I did reach out to the CAO for Cumberland, and spoke with him, because it came from an individual councillor rather than from the council as a whole, just wanted to kind of double check. And Cumberland Council remains committed to extended producer responsibility for Nova Scotia. And this particular councillor has a passion for that file, and so there's no issues from that council's perspective with if this council wishes to reiterate its support to the Minister of Environment.
Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry.
No,
This is the second time that I've done this
Go
tonight.
ahead, Sherry.
Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
I would make a motion to write a letter to the Minister of Environment, expressing our concern over the lack of movement on this file. It was brought forward, EPR is extended producer responsibility, and it has been a topic at solid waste and waste check meetings, and I think it was 2017 when it was first brought before the government. I could be wrong on that, but there's been no movement, so I'd make a motion that we write a letter to the Minister of Environment supporting the resolution that's attached.
All right, a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee. All right, a motion on the floor to write the Minister of Environment to approve the extended producer responsibility. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councillor Patty Durkee.
thank you. I particularly am happy to see that and completely agree. This has been #1 priority for NSFM. The work's been all done, it's been in place, and nothing's been happening. And so anything that we could do to poke the bear, as they say, that's not politically incorrect, to get things moving would be of great benefit, because it's just not moving. And so let's see what we can do to help.
Thank you very much. Is there any more discussion on that motion? Hearing none, and entertain a question? Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As reminded. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item number 8, reports. 8.1, legal entities. Is there any councillor or chair member or attendee that would like to make a report on any of the committees that sit under legal entities? Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to speak on Waste Check. I'm one committee member of that. And our coordinator, Gus Green, general manager, I should say, made a presentation on the Waste Check annual report, which everybody has. And a very good report, and they're doing some good work. And EPR was discussed at that meeting. And so they have a pretty aggressive job to do, and they talked about divert Nova Scotia and whatnot, about the different awards that are going out, and as you can see in the report, so I won't continue on with that too much more. But if I may, the solid waste park one is out there too. Can I speak at that at the same time?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'll get my notebook out. Anyway, we had a solid waste park meeting. Okay, I didn't mark down the date, but we did. But there's a few concerns that were brought up. The Scotia recycling contract is coming up to the end of March. And as the contract set right now, it's not reliable right now, or it's not accurate, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Whereas Scotia Recycling, I don't know if council all knows, has moved out of their facility on Forest Street and have moved to up in the valley area. And they are now using our landfill storage area for our solid waste to store their recyclables, and they're hauling them out on a regular basis. There was a few concerns that were brought up. One was an issue that was brought to the board, was the concern of liability and environmental issues, that if the blue bags or the recycled part are not picked up on a regular basis and some type of accident occurs or environmental issue occurs, who's going to be responsible for it? Or the landfill owners, or would it be Scotia Recycling? So that was an issue that was going to be brought up and looked at. And there was also a concern that whereas the markets are not very strong now for recycle, a lot of recycling materials, is if Scotia Recycling is going to be able to handle all the product that is being transferred there. And it was also mentioned that that perhaps it hasn't happened yet, but if Scotia Recycling misses a few pickups, how much overflow will there be, and how much chance it will be to occupy our waste building there now, so that where the waste is supposed to go. So there's a number of concerns there, and there's an issue being that we'll be bringing up at our next board meeting about the 200 kg limit that is presently out there, and which needs to be refined and reassessed on just exactly how that's going to work. So I will say that the solid waste park is a happening place. It's very neat and tidy. The crew up there, the workers up there do a great job. They have extra work put on them with the Scotia Recycling loading trucks and whatnot. So, but they're doing a good job, and I'll certainly report back. And again, EPR was an issue that was spoke at the landfill part. If it was a feeling, like relate back to what Waste Jack was saying too, and it was we see it begin at our landfill meeting, solid waste meeting, that even if it goes ahead and it's approved by the province to go for the EPR, it's going to probably take 3 to 4 years before it actually comes into play. So there's certainly going to be a time that this is going to take to make it happen. But the sooner we start it, the sooner it will be completed. So that's my report on the landfill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Patty Durkee, you have a report on one of those legal entities?
I do, just want to there's a Western Regional Economic Network Liaison and Oversight Committee, boy, that's long, meeting tomorrow, and I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention the competition that's been going on at the REN for new businesses and spaces, and so tomorrow is the announcement of who is winning. So yours truly has been requested to provide the entertainment for the time after there's a presentation and the judges are going off to decide. So that's a really exciting event, and it'll be posted on Facebook tomorrow, and it starts at 3 o'clock.
Thank you very much, Councillor Durkee. Could you imagine that as an acronym? It's still long as an acronym. Councillor Daniel Allen.
First question is, what type of entertainment do you do?
You're gonna have to sign in to see.
So, Mariner Center Management Authority Board, we are about to enter into what I consider to be an exciting process. We're going to be getting together with Mr. Matt Chauvin to discuss a strategic plan moving forward with the Mariner Center for the next number of years. Our new manager out there is quite enthusiastic, which is great to see. He's got great ideas. He's going to bring the board together along with I think we will be inviting our wardens, deputy warden, mayor, deputy mayor to join in with this. So I'm really looking forward to this process, to see where things are gonna take us. And I think our budget as of now is tracking pretty much on budget as of December. And we've recently formed a subcommittee for board nominations to develop a process and a way to get out to seek new community appointments. So anyway, I was trying to make that short and sweet, and but no, very excited about the way things are going up there.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I attended that meeting as well, and I'm glad to see that that the mayors and deputy mayors are going to be invited to that session. So I do think I have already requested or saved the date already in my calendar. So I plan on attending that. So thank you, Councillor Lauren Cushing.
I just wanted to mention, Dan about the Mariner Center, about some exciting things happening there, but not as many as we'd like to see. I got an invite to go for a public skate at the Mariner Center on Friday from 11:30 to 12:45, I believe it is, that they're trying to get people to come and skate. So I'm going to take it up again, because I used to do a lot of public skating when I worked with the town years ago, right? So it'd be good to get back on the ice again. So if anybody wants to go skating, more than welcome to come.
Yes, I received that invite too. All right, is there any more reports under legal entities? Hearing none, we'll move on to 8.2, the advisory committees. Is there any reports under any of those? Councillor? Councillor Sherry Hurlbert, I believe, yes.
I think he was waiting for all of us to press our buttons at once, and it didn't happen. I just want to speak again to the Accessibility Advisory Committee. I am looking forward to working with our citizen reps and staff and fellow councillor to get that up and running. We had some support, provincial support from the Accessibility Doctorate earlier this week on there was a 1-hour webinar on meaningful and accessible online public engagement, which was really helpful. It was an overview of how we should be running meetings that are accessible to the public and to the people that we're trying to serve. So I look forward to working on that file. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hurlbert. I believe next is Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Right, we've got a SAO committee meeting coming up. The date hasn't been arrived at yet, but it is coming up in the next couple of weeks. And also the Yarmouth Joint Recreation Committee, there's going to be a meeting via Zoom, and it's going to be Wednesday, 3rd of February at 5:30.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I do believe we got a meeting request for that CAO committee. It'd be the first one we had under this council. I believe it was sent. I think it was the. Can't say for sure. I'd have to look. I don't have it here in this computer. It's on. Yes, February the 10th. Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you. Just to advise, the Doctor Recruitment and Retention Committee meeting is now, meeting every other month instead of every month. And our community navigator is still extremely busy. And just quick information that the Chamber with Coastal Financial they've decided to tear down the building on Vancouver Street. You may have seen information about that in the news. And they're building a new, we'll be working on a new building that, which is with a great layout and probably much better for environmental purposes. So that's it.
Thank you very much. Any other committee reports under advisory committees? One thing I gotta mention, I do believe there's a remote executive committee meeting scheduled for February the 2nd, I believe it is. That one's coming up very shortly. Okay, moving on. Item number 8.3, ad hoc committees. Is there any reports on that? Deputy Warden.
Yes, good news, the Mariner Center Expansion Committee, the new build, there's gonna be a meeting, Thursday, February 4th from 3 to 6 o'clock.
The main committee,
For
for
the main-
everybody.
Yeah, this meeting coming up, yes. CEO goes, did say the main committee.
The main committee, okay.
Yeah. Is there any others? Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Yes, our Lake Milo Active Transportation Committee has met and we reviewed some proposals that our CEO will be vetting in the near future, and we'll be getting back to a recommendation to our council.
Thank you very much. That would be the last of those. Pension Arbitration Committee has not met, I can move that. So we'll move on to item number 9, Warden's Report. You all have that in your package, but tonight you're going to get a bonus. We're not only going to give you a written report, but as we all know, things happen fast and furious, and I get fed information like it's coming out of a fire hose. So being a volunteer fire department, I know what it's all about, getting fed stuff, being force fed. One thing that I should point out that I think is very important for the community and that I've attended since its inception, as you may or may not know, very soon the Yarmouth Hospital Foundation is having their We Care Radiothon. Some of the older councillors may remember that. This year it's happening on Thursday, February the 4th, 2021, from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. As you all, the council members from the previous term must remember that over the years we've either made challenges to each other, gone into the hospital, met different personalities and stuff like that. Over the past 3 years, I think I was spoke on behalf of the municipality district of Yarmouth over those years, but this year it's going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be happening on site. It's going to be happening, CGLS is going to be broadcasting from their facilities, and it's closed to the public. However, if you would like to make a donation, you can drop it off at their safe and secure Pink Barrow Star donation station and drive-through located at the Yarmouth Mall, or you can call the We Care phone line at 1-844-866-6464. That's where you can make your pledge and donation. Some years councils have made a lump sum donation. Last couple of years what I've done is I've gone and made challenges or accepted challenges or matched challenges by other politicians. This year I'm planning to get ahead of the gate and make a challenge to my colleagues, the mayors and wardens, and all of you. I'm not going to tell you what the amount's going to be, but you're going to find out one way or another. So that's something that I think that's very important. And what they're doing is raising funds this year for critical equipment needs in the operating room. There's 4 things that they're raising for. Is the ACL repair orthopedic instruments, CMAC fiber optic machine, it's a flexible scope. And 2 of these things is something that I've benefited throughout the past little bit. Some people may or may not know I was diagnosed with colon cancer a year ago. What they're also doing is they're raising funds for a new coloscope, which is the machine that's come end of life. So I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that machine, a very important piece. And not only me, but many people have been diagnosed early and be able to live. And another thing that I've had done is a cataract surgery a couple years ago, and they're also raising money for 5, I can't even say this word, ophthalmology stretchers. That's something that I've also benefited from in the municipality district here. So this is, in my opinion, a very worthwhile and worthy cause to fundraise for and try to meet the challenges that are put out there. And please pass the word as soon as I can post it on my John Cunningham, Warden of the Municipality District of Yarmouth. Please share and pass the word, because even though you might not use the hospital today, you might need it tomorrow. And all the equipment they have will certainly benefit not only the residents of the Municipality District of Yarmouth, but all across the Tri-Counties, because that is a regional hospital. So that's my ward's report. It's a little bit different this time, but I'm planning on switching it up. Maybe next time it'll be full verbal. Maybe next time after that, it'll be just written. But that's my report. There's no need for any motions to accept. Moving on, in camera. Sorry.
Mr. Chair, sorry, I have a question for you. You had a meeting with the staff sergeant to discuss issues on the 7th of February, and one was speeding, and I just wondered if you have any information to share about that.
No, I don't have any information to share with that, other than he's going to be coming back and meet with councils for our priorities and stuff. But something that you had brought up, Councillor Durkee, and a motion that was made to reach out to RCMP, was to report the speeding in different areas. So we reported that to him. Also, there's new appointments to the Police Advisory Committee, and they're soon going to be asked to meet, I'm pretty sure. And always what happens there with the RCMP is they will be asking what is some of the priorities that you see, and obviously speeding was one of them that we actually voted on. So yes, the staff sergeant is aware. Traffic, please correct me, MCO, if I'm wrong. There's 2 separate entities in the RCMP office for the rural area. One is the one that we pay for, another one is traffic services, I believe they're called. So Michelle Lacroix, the staff sergeant, is going to be referring our request to up and look at speeding in different areas. He knows of trouble spots, but if there is trouble spots, please forward any concerns or areas that you may see as a concern. Rather than inundating him, what you can do is I can compile a list. We already spoke about some, which I had copied down already, Councillor Durkee, and if anyone else has any, please either forward them to me or our 2 new committee members, Councillor Nick Hilton and Councillor Lauren Cushing, so they can bring those forward. So, Councillor, you're going to be put to work almost right away on that committee. Does that answer your question,
Yeah, thank you very much.
I do have something to add, if that's okay, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely, MCA.
So we did bring up with the staff sergeant about our speed calming sign that got stolen, and so the replacement is ordered. We're getting exactly the same thing again, and so he's agreeable to work with us to use that tool. And so putting things together through the advisory committee and the traffic section that generally looks after speed enforcement, and then that piece hopefully we'll get things covered off. And we did mention to him about public education around speeding as well, so we did touch on all those things.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, MCA. Any more questions on my report? Hearing none, item number 10, we have 2 in-camera motion, or 2 in-camera items, so I need a motion to move into camera.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Councillor Daniel Allen, seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried.